One thing that is new in 2016 that you'll need to be aware of if you are updating and using the newer software is that the V-Ray camera is no longer there. Now, one thing you can always do is import or actually merge using this button up here, or that is unique to my user interface, but you can also merge from up here. And what you do is merge in an object or a V-Ray camera from an old project that you did in an earlier version of V-Ray where the camera was still there. It's weird because it still works from an old project, but they no longer have new ones that you can create in the new Macs. This does not make a lot of sense, and I think it's anything after V-Ray 3.0 where you can't do that. So I'm using 2016 here and V-Ray 3.0 or 3.2 or 3 or something like that. And if you go to Creation Panel, Cameras, there's no longer a V-Ray camera here. If you go to V-Ray, it's just V-Ray Dome camera. That's not what we want. So if you go to Standard, this physical camera is something developed by Autodesk with the help of Chaos Group, the makers of V-Ray, and supposedly it works just like a V-Ray camera. It doesn't. But that's a typical Autodesk trick. They take something that's great and they ruin it. Yeah, they're jerks. Anyway, the physical camera does have similar settings to the V-Ray camera. So in the other video with the V-Ray camera, all that stuff translates pretty directly to here. Here you can see focal length, zoom, use target distance for focusing, just like the V-Ray camera. There's shutter. Okay, so this is the different formats for the kind of shutter, and this is the shutter speed. Exposure. Okay, so the settings are a little different. You'll have to get used to them a little bit, but see, here's lens distortion. It's perspective control, so if you want to do the vertical, auto vertical tilt correction, like the V-Ray camera does. Okay, the only thing that you need to be careful of with this physical camera is when you put it in, it assumes you're using Mental Ray, and it goes up here if you go to Rendering, Environment, and it turns on exposure control for your scene, because that's how Mental Ray handles exposure. In V-Ray cameras, the old V-Ray cameras, it's just handled within camera. If you put in one of these physical cameras, the exposure is now potentially handled from here, and so it just automatically turns this on. What I do is go back into no exposure control and turn it off again. You can set it up so that you are controlling the exposure of your scene from here. I don't necessarily like doing that. I like the old way that it worked, and I'm mad that they took it away. But anyway, that's something to be aware of. And other than that, it has pretty much all the same settings as the regular V-Ray camera, but it's now this standard physical camera that comes straight out of the box with 3ds Max. So that's just a little update for you, depending on which software you are using.